Welcome to Machine Minds, where technology and humanity meet. I'm your host, Greg Tarusian, founder of Samson Rose, a recruiting and search business focused on the robotics and AI industries. The Machine Minds show is where we dive deep into the intricate world of robotics and artificial intelligence. As a staffing industry leader with a passion for the frontiers of technology, I'm pleased to be bringing you intimate conversations with the founders, investors, and trailblazers who are at the heart of the AI and robotics revolution. In each episode, we dig into their journeys, the applications of the products they're working on, and the breakthroughs that are shaping our future. Join us as we explore how these machine minds are transforming the way we live, work, and understand our world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about this amazing field, you'll learn something new with each episode. Let's delve into the extraordinary. Let's delve into machine minds. And in today's episode, we have CEO of Vebu, Buck Jordan. Thanks for being here, Buck.
No, thanks for having me, Greg.
It's really great to have you on here. I've known Buck for many years, worked together in a number of capacities, so glad I could get you on this show as one of the early people. So let's jump into it. So Buck, I'm going to pass it over to you now just to give a little bit of an overview of yourself, your role, and also, as well as being CEO of Vebu, you're president and co-founder of Miso Robotics, which is very relevant for the listeners and the industry. So please tell us a bit more about you and the roles that you're involved with.
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of background. My background mostly comes from venture. So I deployed about $150 million across a number of companies, mostly in the AI, robotics, and we ended up trending pretty heavily in the food space. And really with the last dollars of my venture fund, kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, I founded Miso Robotics. And so Miso Robotics is a industrial robotic arm in the back of a quick serve restaurant. Specifically, it operates the fryer and does a few other tasks in the back of house that most people don't want to do, or many brands find difficult to staff and continue having staff stay there. But while I was there, I really I've really been obsessed with the challenge of automation as it applies to the restaurant industry, because the restaurant industry is under a massive amount of strain. We've all been reading about what's happening to labor in the restaurant space. People are introducing $22 an hour labor laws for quick serve restaurants in California. And these labor laws are generally starting on the coast, marching towards the center of the country, really destroying restaurant business models along the way. And it really occurred to me in 2016 when I founded Miso Robotics that could all be changing soon. First of all, I think that it's not going to be cool again to work in the back of McDonald's. It's going to be challenging for these brands to continue to expand and even operate in this labor environment. We're set over the next 10 years to be missing 3 million people from the U.S. restaurant workforce, which is really an unrecoverable problem. And so the industry must automate. And so I think that in 2016, what I was seeing is that there was a dramatic, decrease of the cost, similar to Moore's law, where the cost of computing goes down every couple of years. The cost of robotics was also going down significantly. And so I had anticipated that because a robotic arm used to cost in 2016, like before 2016, used to cost like north of $100,000. In 16, it was something around $60,000, $70,000 a piece. Today, it's $8,000 unit volume of one, direct from Shenzhen. Shenzhen wins when it comes to mass manufacturing. And then, concurrently with that, the quality of computer vision has been going up, and the cost of computer vision has been going down. At the time, I don't know if exactly at that time, but there was you could buy an Intel RealSense camera for $200 and tell the difference between an apple and an orange and a pear, and volumetric data so you can grab it. So all of a sudden, you've got a massive problem, and that is labor in the restaurant space, and the restaurant space has no ability to solve it themselves, because robotics is a very, very challenging, kind of discipline skill set. We basically saw like a decreasing cost of hardware, decreasing cost of compute, and decreasing cost of computer vision. And so all this means is that a once very expensive automation challenge to be solved through robotics can be solved much cheaper, and starts to become more like a software solution. It's a little bit more scalable. $8,000 arm versus $100,000 arm. And so that thesis really kind of captivated me in terms of a direction to kind of really sink a lot of my life and effort into. And while I was running Miso Robotics, I was really constantly inundated by some of the biggest brands in the world cold emailing our website. And Miso happens to have probably one of the biggest brands in food robotics. But like any startup, we have to focus and we have a product set that we need to complete and push out into the market. And so I left Miso Robotics. I found a CEO who I think can scale a business better, and then left Miso Robotics to start Vebu, which is where I spend most of my time today. Vebu is short for venture builder. And so what we do at Vebu is we engage with large brands, brands that and eat at many, once a week maybe, to build bespoke robotics for them. And so it's not really a consulting capacity. We're really a kind of an interesting kind of product shop where we'll secure a very large customer up front, then we'll build the product, and then of course we know that there's a buyer for it because that customer has paid us millions of dollars to build it and non-recurring engineering to build that product. So our mission here at Vebu is really to automate the supply chain of food from seed to fork. We're really focused on back of house, not so much agriculture right now. One day we might go to ag. But the thesis really is that when you focus in robotics, in a discipline of robotics, in an industry food, you end up having a lot of build it once, use it twice. And so development can be a lot faster and more efficient. And so that's what I'm doing today. It's just crazy, probably 200 people across both companies, crazy robot shop, and just focus on food.
It's really awesome. Really awesome. And yeah, the food tech space is obviously really hot at the moment and very relevant for applying robotics and AI. So yeah, it's interesting timing in the market, isn't it? With the prices coming down, as you said, and it becoming a lot more accessible. It just means that the feasibility of revenue being generated, but also profit from the investment in those restaurants is combined with these prices, like the hourly wages going up. It just makes sense. It's a no-brainer, basically.
Yeah. And food costs have gone up 30% over the past 2 years too. So everything's squeezed in these restaurants. And at some point, consumers are not going to be able to pay it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess this is one of the only ways to try and bring that down a little bit, manage costs, because the margins are so small already in restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so, one of our challenges is building robotics that's affordable enough to be able to fit into these low wage work and to be able to replace low wage workers. And a lot of people kind of shy away from the word replace, because it's they took our jobs, kind of argument, right? But these jobs are not being filled. There's $6 billion of wages of automatable jobs that are not filled today in the United States in the food space. So there's just a huge unmet demand. And a lot of the jobs that we focus on first are the jobs that people really don't want to do. Like, for instance, dishwashing. The average dishwasher quits in 42 days.
Wow.
The average person who operates a fryer, if it's only the sole job they do, is like 60 days. Because these are tough jobs. It's not easy to stand above a boiling vat of oil for 8 hours for a whole shift. And restaurants have trouble staffing them, and generally speaking, people don't want to do them, and a robot can do it better. And so, there is an increasing quality of life for the average quick serve restaurant worker, I think, with automation.
Yeah, you think about the risk as well, operating a fryer all day, or working in those sort of temperatures, the burns you get, or the damage that it can impact other people in there as well. No one wants to do that all day, every day.
Yeah, I mean, insurance goes down. Insurance costs go down. Quality, consistency, and speed of service goes up, or all improves rather.
And your staff turnover reduces.
Significantly. The industry average is 144%, which I don't know what that is, like anywhere from like 8 to 9 months. You turn over the entire staff. Like, that's horrendous, But if you really kind of peel back the data, you've got a dishwasher who quits in 42 days, so there's some outliers that really affect that 8-9 month turnover. And if you start taking those outliers out, which people don't want to do generally, or don't want to do those kind of jobs, then all of a sudden, that 8-9 month, turnover average goes to 10 to 12 and becomes more sustainable.
Definitely, definitely. So talk to me a bit about some of the challenges you mentioned there already briefly, but some of the challenges with these disruptive technologies or bottlenecks that you've seen or can foresee for you guys.
Well, I'll talk about it in my industry. So I think the food industry is pretty like they all know they need to change. They're all like, they all pick up my phone. Like biggest brands in the world will take my call because they know they got a problem. But the industry is just really, really slow to adopt. And think about it, like these companies run kitchens with normal kitchen equipment, and all of a sudden we're putting like an advanced robotic arm in the back of it and having it work with humans. It's a bit. There's a lot of change management. So I think that like the pace of rollout is just generally slower than I think anyone in the tech industry would like. And so I think that's a challenge. I think that there's also some structural challenges to my industry. Because, and I'm specifically talking about the franchise aspect to the restaurant space. Starting in the 60s and 70s, the entire industry went to as high 90% plus franchising as fast as they humanly could. And the reason why is pretty understandable. It's basically because to open a restaurant costs anywhere from, depending on the brand, costs anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million. That's a lot, and then whoever owns that restaurant has to manage dozens of people on and off a shift. It's like a huge operational issue. It's a huge capital issue. And if you're a big brand and you want to grow 3,000-4,000 stores over the next 5 years, like multiply that by $500,000 to $3 million, depending on how much it costs to build your store, and that's a lot of cash. So the industry is really trapped in this kind of franchise model because they've got existing brands. You can't get out of the franchise laws are very, very powerful. And the franchisees in many ways, and it depends on which brand you're talking about, the franchisees kind of run them in many ways. Like they're the ones who make the purchase decisions. But so our challenge is always you got to sell to corporate because the corporate sets brand standards, and then you have to then double sell it to the franchisees. And sometimes the franchisees are like yelling at the corporate, "Hey, where are my robots?" And sometimes the corporate is like, "No, this is the right thing to do," and you got to talk the franchisees into doing it. And so there's a little bit more friction than in a typical company, a typical sales process. I may have gone off the rails there, Greg, but there you
go. No. That sounds, it's very interesting, actually. I didn't think about that because you're obviously your customer base in fast food restaurants is going to be a lot of franchises, but I didn't think about the element of selling to corporate first because they have to set that standard or I guess it's like in any business coming from the top down. If you can sell to the founder, the CEO, and then they're going to implement that standard or that tool or process or whatever it may be, same way in this, but then you have to resell it to them. So who actually swallows that cost? Is it the actual franchisee?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of R&D, it's the corporate who will do that. But but in terms of the franchisee's got to be the one who buys the product,
right?
Which also starts to impact how we're able to charge. Most franchise operations, like some are $1 billion operations, they got a lot of cash, but many are mom and pops or small operations that really can't afford, that are running razor thin margins, and they really can't afford to drop a significant amount of money on an advanced, robot in the back of their house, So this really pushes the entire industry towards, robots as a service or a SaaS, where it's just a monthly fee, which is frankly good in a lot of ways. Good because it increases the quality of the startup's revenue because recurring revenue always gets a higher multiple at exit. But also it kind of puts more strain on those startups because they have to carry the burden of cash and having to build these things. And so there is a big opportunity in financing this kind of wave of robotics that's coming into the restaurant industry, I think.
So talk me through how this would work. So in theory, the big brand might reach out to you or you reach out to them. They have an interest in automating part of their kitchen activities. They will work with you on an R&D capacity to develop that product, and then they have to push that down to their franchisees. They'll set the standard, say this is something we've invested in or something we're interested in. And then now it's the pricing model you talked about, how that would actually be carried through and implemented.
Yeah, that's right. And we're also in highly franchised, sorry, I cut you off, but like in highly franchised businesses and brands, there is an opportunity to change the quality of their revenue. Because they get, generally speaking, 5 points off the top, the revenue. And so, there's an opportunity to kind of bring them in on the products. It's like they pay us all the R&D fees to build it. We end up owning the IP. Then we have to manufacture, distribute, and sell these things into their system. But we need their help doing it. Like we need their help selling it through. And there's an opportunity for them to not just take 5 points off the top, but to get a little bit of SaaS revenue, which, as we know, has a really great, enterprise value effect when it comes to valuations of the company. Right.
Which leads me to the next point that I wanted to talk to you about is about exit strategies, if at all. I know it's pretty early, but we had some pretty interesting offline conversations, and from all of these big brands and external interest you're getting, it sounds like there's multiple options here. So can we talk a little bit about exit?
Yeah, I think that this is the best. This is an incredible opportunity. The need for automation in the food space is astronomical, and it's not going away anytime soon. If you look at just the demographics of the world the world's getting gray really quick. Quick stat in the United States. The United States is pretty healthy when it comes to the demographic, when it comes to the developed countries in the world, but even the United States is looking pretty dire. So a quick stat in 2010. The ratio of working age adults to retired adults was 4.4 to 1. In 2060, 50 years later, it's projected to be 2.2 to 1. So half the number of people. So what does that mean? That means that, first of all, who's going to make the burgers? That means that a hell of a lot more of society's productive capacity is going to be going towards, buying Depends and Ensure for old people, and as opposed to being invested into new technology development and what have you. And of course the labor market is gonna, you think we got trouble now? We got major trouble in the decades to come. And so this leads me to like exit opportunities. And so this is a capability, robotics in the food space. This is a capability that a lot of people need to have. We've received interest from brands, large brands, to acquire us. We've received very interest from other kind of startups in the kitchen space to acquire us, because this is a hard capability to build and a really important one that's going to last for decades. Like I think I've got decades to build this company. But some people who need to acquire us are really, I think the existing kitchen equipment suppliers. These are the people who own my customers today, the people who make the sea of undifferentiated stainless steel product in the back of house. I'm talking about the stoves, the fridges, the stainless steel tables, but the future is automated. It's driven by computer vision, AI, and robotics. And these guys make bent stainless steel sinks. And so I think they desperately need to acquire our capability. So I think that there's brands who want to buy us. There's existing people in the infrastructure who want to buy, in the ecosystem who want to buy us. And I actually think that there is a really good path to going public, because one really interesting thing about Miso Robotics is that we've raised 90 million plus from crowdfunding, and so which is crazy. It's one of the biggest in the world. And so, but what does that really mean, right? So that means, or one of the takeaways, the conclusions of that are that we've done an incredible job of being able to explain to the retail investor what AI is, in a very short snippet, right? And if I'm going to explain what artificial intelligence is to a retail investor, I'm going to need an hour in a normal text. But, robot flipping burger, people get it and they understand the use case. And so I think that in the event that we're able to one day go public, I think that there's a good opportunity, good potential that we would have a very we would trade at a premium, because if you want to bet on the future of automation or the future of the food industry being automated, who do you put your money into? Forget about the food industry, just automation in general being a future. Like, where do you put your money? It's not Google, Facebook, Amazon. All that's too diluted with other kind of revenue. What's the pure play bet? There really isn't one today. There's some warehouse companies, but this is going to be a huge, huge business. Right now we're working with some of the best and biggest, highest quality brands out there in the food space. I think if you give us a couple of years to get more product out there in the market, get more revenue, I think there's a really good opportunity we can IPO.
Amazing, amazing. And then couple that with the RaaS model as well. If you've got that recurring revenue plus these partnerships, I mean, again, no brainer.
Yeah, well, a lot of work between here and there, but
Yeah.
from your lips to SEC's ears.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I know that another part of what Vebu does, and we just talk about this high level, but you've got some investments as well that you make as part of it. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so we do make selective investments. We generally have a group of investors who love to kind of co-invest with us, especially when it comes to automation and robotics. One company we recently led the seed round in was Serve Robotics. So Serve Robotics,
cool.
super cool company. It's a sidewalk delivery robot. Span out of Uber. Because it'll span out of Uber Postmates rather. It was a Postmates project that Uber acquired when they acquired Postmates. And turns out a huge number of orders is delivered within 2 mile radius of the restaurant, right? And so if you deliver on a sidewalk, well, one, you're taking a very polluting and expensive and inefficient car and a human off the road, so you're kind of decreasing traffic. It's better for ESG purposes, but also the food gets delivered on time. I mean, how many times have you ordered food? It's going to be there in 30 minutes, and like an hour and 15 minutes later, you finally get your thing. You're like, yeah, I got tripped by Uber. Yeah, it's the worst, But like this thing delivers on time because there's not a lot of traffic on sidewalks, and it's a level 4 autonomy company, which basically means that like it's cameras off, the robot is driving on the sidewalk, and then a human kind of has to zoom in when it has to cross an intersection, a dangerous place. And one day that'll be automated too. Sorry, I went down a deep rabbit hole, but like we invest in companies like that that have big visions and have a defensible robotic or AI kind of moat.
Amazing. So bigger picture opportunities that you see for AI, robotics, big data, computer vision in the food tech space. Is there anything that you see further down the line that you haven't even started working on yet, or that, North Star vision where you want to be?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've got a vision for the future of the kitchen. I mean, first of all, like kind of near term, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for AI to come in and really increase the quality, consistency of food that's being prepared. Because like all this food is being prepared by an entry level worker who has had a minimal amount of training. And again, remember, they quit in 42 days or 9 months, depending on what role they're in, right? So they never actually get a chance to get really good at things because in general they quit too soon. So I think that there's an opportunity to kind of use AI to remove the cognitive load on a lot of these workers, like tell them what to do, when to do it, to make sure quality consistency is good, and people check them along the way. So a lot of really interesting computer vision solutions that are kind of focused on that. And there's a big opportunity for data in the back of house. Like people, one of our clients gave us this great quote. They said, our data stops at the loading dock. In other words, when they receive the food in the back, and they pick it up at the POS, the point of sale system, but they have no idea what happens in between, and so they have to kind of like guess and interpolate, right? So I think that's going away. I think there's an ability for like kind of data to come out that's actually quite actionable in a number of areas. And then, but I would say that in terms of big changes to the kitchen space, I think that over the next 5-6 years, there's going to be companies like Miso Robotics who are taking a cobotic approach, which means humans and robots working together. And they'll come in, they'll take out the fryer, they'll take out the drink station, maybe some other tasks, but humans still working in and around the robots. But I think that kind of year 5 or 6, you're going to start to see a proliferation of fully autonomous restaurants. And what does it mean to be fully autonomous, right? So it means your menu has been sacrificed or designed to be fully autonomous, because there's just some things robots can't do. Like I'm not going to sprinkle that little piece of parsley on a thing or whatever. But it's worth the juice is worth the squeeze, because what do you get when you go full auto? That means you don't have to build a very expensive kitchen with permitting and like you still have permitting, but like it's a different kind of thing. You don't have to build like gas and like hoods and like exhaust and what have you. And you don't need to manage dozens of people on or off shift. You've probably got one person who could be from Cisco or some other supplier who comes in, supplies, kind of refreshes the machine in terms of like restocks it and cleans it like once a day. And of course, we're in this delivery era where so much is delivered. And so who cares who made it if you're not going in to enjoy the ambience? Like there's always going to be a market for like, I want to go and have a nice meal and sit down. That's not what I'm talking about. There's going to be this proliferation of fully autonomous restaurants where, you could have someone serving a incredible orange chicken in more like an expanded vending machine, or a kiosk, sitting next to a Panda Express, and the food coming out of that kiosk will be higher quality, fresher, and it won't have any labor. And it won't have any real estate costs. So you'll be paying like a more month-to-month kind of kiosk thing, but not like a 5-year lease, no tenant improvement. So there, and of course that vending machine or kiosk, whatever, is gonna be serving that food at higher quality at half the price. And so there's gonna be a revolution, I think, coming at some point.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on a great point there. With if you're delivering, you don't really care where it's come from, and you see the same thing with ghost kitchens and stuff like that. If it hasn't come directly from the restaurant, it doesn't really matter. So you're getting the same food or better food. It's just about the quality and timing and the product, really.
Yeah.
Well, look, this is great. Thanks again for your time, Buck. I'll just wrap up here with some summary notes that I think most people should be really excited about having more automation in the restaurant space. We've talked to a number of people on this show in the space, and we could just see huge benefit in terms of quality, consistency, price, and the opportunities for the owners, the franchisees in this point, the restaurant owners, and then obviously the back office, back of restaurant workers as well. The convergence of the cost coming down and availability of the technology is huge, and it just seems like you guys are in the right place at the right time and have been doing all of the foundational and groundwork to be here. So I'm really excited to see what happens in the future.
Well, thanks for helping us get here, Greg. It's been great to work with you.
No, my pleasure. So where can the listeners find out more about you, about Vebu and Miso?
You can go to misorobotics.com or vebulabs.com.
Perfect. Thanks, Buck. Take care.